Hi, I'm Wine Guy Ty. Welcome to the Barrel Room. We are at Rediscover Australia, the North American Roadshow. The venue is Shambar Restaurant in Crosstown, and my guest today is Mark Ramm. He's the Regional Export Manager for Angove Family Winemakers. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Ty. How are you going today?
Good. Before we get into it, I just need to make mention of my last interview for listeners and subscribers. Val Tate, who's GM and winemaker from Gold Hill Winery in Oliver, BC. She's a good friend of mine. Very hands-on winemaker with tons of experience and vintages under her belt. 3 decades of winemaking, presently at Gold Hill Winery, along with making wines under her own label with longtime partner Ian Sutherland, Two House. Talk not just about her current role, but also recent weather events here in BC and what that meant for the winery. Surfing in the winters, what she and Ian like to do with their place in Panama. Val always has much happening, a lot to say. If that sounds of interest to you, head on over and have a listen. Mark grew up in a small community in South Australia and began his professional career in banking, specializing in business and rural lending. Then in 1999, found himself in Riverland, surrounded by some of Australia's most significant wineries. The love of the grape caught his eye. He left his former career and joined the Angove Family Winemakers export team. Across the decades, Mark has had his hands and feet, I presume, in all areas of operation, from the vineyard to the bottling line, and chiefly building the Angove brand across their global markets. He's worked closely with the family to hone his technical winemaking skills and knowledge, and is involved specifically with premium small batch wines at the apex of the Angove range. He's also a key member of the Angove Vintage Tasting Assessment Panel, identifying wines for specific blends like their delicious GSM or SGM. We're going to circle back to that. And I'm just going to give a little redux on the Angove family of winemakers for those who tune in and don't know the history. The legacy began way back in 1886, 140 years of family wine and tradition. From Dr. William Thomas Angove, who established a medical practice in Tea Tree Gully, to the current 5th generation of the family, really one of Australia's most enduring and influential family wine stories. So interesting as that was alongside 2 other medical doctors at the time, including Dr. Henry Lindemann and Dr. Christopher Rawson Penfold. In my research, one always learns something new. I didn't know that. The story continues. Son Thomas establishes a winery and distillery in 1910. In 1925, the creation of First Brandy, St. Agnes, crowned best brandy in the world on 3 occasions, as I understand. More of a wine podcast, so we'll maybe discuss this tangent at a future date and defer that. In 1965, inventors of bag-in-a-box cask wine, or as I like to call it, Card Bordeaux, revolutionizing wine packaging globally. Fast forward to the 21st century, premium wines are really the focus with McLaren Vale and organic viticulture. Angove has firmly established a broad portfolio from single vineyard and flagship wines to everyday classics. How's that for a preamble?
Wow. You put it down like that, and you do have to take a moment just to try and piece it all together. I look at it and I go, 140 years of winemaking, and I've been there 27 years now, and seen 3 generations go through the business.
That's what I was going to say. You've hung your hat for over 25 years, so that's over a quarter century. Obviously a deep connection for decades, which has seen considerable changes from the turn of the century until now. Take us on a virtual tour, if you will, of the course of that time to the current generation of the family and today's wine and spirits production. Yeah,
it's been a phenomenal change across the business. I look at when I first started, we were crushing 23,000 tonne with a really strong focus on bulk wine. At that time, the 3rd generation, Tom Angove, was running the business. His son, John, was about to take over the business, 4th generation. And I think John realised that whilst we're in the top 10 exporters of wine out of Australia, he realised that we were somewhat lost in the overall scheme of things and needed to find our niche. Mm-hmm. So it's been a transformation within our business across the last 15 years, which has just been it's been a really good ride. Yeah, it's been interesting.
Angove wines are currently exported to over 30 countries worldwide. That's a significantly large enterprise, a massive scale, and I'm sure you've had a huge hand in shaping. How has that evolved? Where do we Canadians fit into that picture? What role do geopolitics play in all the export arrangements? I'm sure these days, especially with what's going on south of our border here and tariffing, I know the industry there has really had to pivot and is frankly suffering tremendously. And although I'm not going to get into politics, not what this podcast is about, but I'm sure you could speak to that.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride. As I said, we've come from when I first started crushing considerable volume, which was really strong focus on the UK market and the supermarket trade in the UK. A lot of that was done as bulk. I now look at our business now where we're only crushing 8,000 tonne and a lot more focus on the premium side of our business. So whilst...
Which would be the McLaren Vale.
Correct, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
How many hectares do you have under plant there?
So we have about 27 to 30 hectares at our Warboys vineyard.
All right, yeah.
But we also source grapes from the McLaren Vale as well. So it's been a transition from one which has been really strong focus on volume to one which now focuses on less volume but more quality as well. So whilst we've changed within our business, the markets have all changed as well. So whilst we were in the top 10 exporters of wine out of Australia back when I first started, that's now dropped out considerably because we've changed the focus within our business.
Not unlike so many others, starting to understand just the kind of terroir and history of the terroir to what is achievable in terms of high or highest quality wines. I was just in a seminar with Mark Davidson this morning, and we were tasting one of the wines, the Mourvèdre, comes from the oldest Mourvèdre planting on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's a real moment for me.
Yeah.
And just amazing wine. But there are so many of those stories across all of Australia. But I would imagine 140 years of history, there's many pivotal markers, especially some that you have been there in the making.
And Australia is put into the New World category, but I look at some of the stories that exist, some of the groundbreaking achievements which have taken place within the wine industry across the globe, and there's some wonderful stories that don't get told and need to be told as well because they are changing.
Share with me just one of those stories, whatever comes to mind.
Oh, well, I look at your first point about the doctors and creating that wine industry within Australia. There was 5 doctors which were all very focused on wine.
There were 5.
Yeah.
Oh, so not just Angoves,
Lindemans,
Penfolds, all the big.
Yeah. So there were 5 doctors which went right. We're going to create this, but also
and the reason for that, or one of the correlations at the very least, which might not get talked about, is that back then wine was a panacea for all of what ails thee, for instance. So wine sort of went hand in hand with Eucharist and better living, or so many things about health and holistic health, and so they had a keen interest in producing wines or getting some wines established at the very least to use in some of their rituals of the church of the day.
Yeah. Absolutely, and wine's always been a part of everyday life. I look at this, the Europeans use wine in meals and just those family affairs, which is just wonderful to watch.
So the philosophy of Angoves is characterized by working with nature, not against it. And the winery has a deep commitment to environmental stewardship across vineyards, winery operations, and packaging. One of Australia's leaders in this regard. Why is this so important to you and the brand?
I think we started organic viticulture about 17 years ago, very much driven by the family wanting to pass the vineyards and the business onto their children and their future generations in the best way possible. they saw organic viticulture as the driver and the vehicle to do that. But what it also did was it made our whole business rethink about how we do things and what we're doing. So that every decision that we make within the business now is driven by how are we impacting the land, how are we impacting society and the communities that we live in. Our winery in Renmark in South Australia, the population of Renmark is only 10,000 people. It's a very, very small community. Mm-hmm. But it also gives us the opportunity to look at that community base and go, how do we become better people, and how do we help that community whilst we're trying to run a business at the same time, and that just evolves from there. It's about good stewardship and doing the right things, I think.
Mm-hmm. Family is at the core, led by Chairman John Angove with fifth generation Victoria and Richard, joint managing directors. The ethos is honesty, respect, hard work, tradition. Hard to argue with any of that. You remain privately owned, one of the largest in Australia to this day, where many wineries choose another path. Does this give you a competitive advantage, or is it something more personally held by you and the family?
I think the family look at it as they want to pass on the business to their children and continue to evolve the business. And keep it 100% family owned going forward from what I believe. I think it's a wonderful environment to work in. I report to my boss, who reports to the family. We have our own vineyards, our own winery, our own bottling line, our own warehouse.
You have your own in-house bottling line. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, all on site.
So all on site in McLaren Vale or in
the Riverland.
In the Riverland.
Yeah. So every decision that our business makes is made within that business, and we can pull a trigger as quickly as we want to.
It certainly would arguably make you more agile.
Absolutely. It gives us a lot of flexibility within our business and the ability to do a lot of things which other companies can't do in the timeline that sometimes needs to be done.
Yeah. So McLaren Vale is the main focus for winemaking, or at least premium winemaking, but Riverland is the heart and the roots, the literal roots. Can you share some of the unique points of each for those of us who sadly never had the opportunity to get there?
So the McLaren Vale is
planting a seed, by the way. Please. I'm open to invitation.
Well, I'm very lucky. I live in a country which is blessed with a wonderful environment. Australia is a blessed country. The McLaren Vale is a beautiful place to grow grapes. It's right on the ocean. It has a wonderful climate for growing grapes. Quite Mediterranean in style.
Yeah. With some aspect. So you have different tiers.
A slight aspect. As you move into the Adelaide Hills more, you start to get a little bit more aspect. But relatively flat between the beach and the hills. Mm-hmm. But that environment, that Mediterranean style, gives you the ability to make wines which are very elegant in style and very, and we can also do different varietals quite well as well.
What varietals are you kind of focused on currently?
So Grenache is probably the poster boy for the McLaren Vale, but also
well, I can get behind that flag, and again in the seminar, tasting a few Keystone Grenache from Australia, it really seems like that is a place to watch for that varietal.
Yeah. Fiano, Tempranillo, the list goes on and on and on and on. But and I think that's what's so wonderful about the Australian wine industry at the moment is that evolution and that ability to look at what we're doing, mm-hmm. and go, okay, we need to do things differently. As the market evolves, we need to move with it.
Yeah.
Renmark is a different environment. It's fed by the Murray River. It's 300 kilometres north of Adelaide. Very dry, very arid, small community, mm-hmm. but driven by horticulture and on the back of horticulture. Summers are long and hot, but
so that would be your kind of smallest vineyard sites and production area, but.
Well, it's very much the engine room for the Australian wine industry. That's where a lot of the volume comes from, out of the Riverland.
Yeah. Okay. I'm at Victoria Angove not long ago at Beyond the Expected Wine Australia event at Terminal City Club here, which is, it's a stone's throw. From here, GSM was the highlight for me, or SGM, I believe it is, on one of your newer labels, which is like sort of branded. I mean, I really love the branding of that. It almost looks like airport call letters, but in that gorgeous Tiffany blue color that was chosen. That brings me to this, the Angove Vintage Tasting Assessment Panel. Is it AVTAP? Do you call it AVTAP? The Angove Vintage Tasting Assessment Panel? It sounds fun.
But we should.
It sounds fun to me,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it's a complex and complicated part of the operation. This is blending. Take me through that process, because as I understand, you have been involved in all of that, and we know some of the top blends like that are when I put them in my mouth, it's like they're some of my favorite wines.
I'm very lucky where I'm based, as I live in the Riverland, and based at the winery, so I get the ability to work very closely with our winemaking team. We've had a very stable winemaking team for a long time. Tony Ingle, our chief winemaker, has been there close to 20 years, I believe.
What's his background?
His background, believe it or not, he's English. He was a banker in the UK.
Oh, so he kind of looked at you and said, "Well, if
that's good for the goose."
Yeah, disappear from banking and make a segue into wine.
Yeah, his was a little bit more higher up the tree than mine, I think. But yeah, so his background was banking as well. So he's joined us 20 years ago, and has been a really big instigator in the change in our business ethos and philosophy in winemaking. He's driven this really strong need to make things better, to push the envelope, to ensure that every single wine that hits the shelf is the best that we can possibly do. We have this wonderful saying in Australia that you only get one shot, one crack. So if you screw that up, you're done. So, we live by that, where, every single bottle needs to be the best it can be. Yeah.
So talking about some bottles, we've got one on the table here, this Naturalist Organic Sauvignon Blanc. There are, as far as I understand, 3, 4, 5 different tracks or different portfolios of wine. What differentiates those, or can you just sort of speak to that for a second?
Yeah, we have a broad portfolio of wines which start from our flagship wine.
So how many SKUs? A lot.
Our accountant would say too many.
Sure.
I always say that everything that has to have a reason for being. So our portfolio of wines there would have to be, if I took a stab at the number, there'd have to be 30 odd different brands, and within them maybe half a dozen different varietals within those brands.
Yeah.
So a lot of wines to manage through the winery. But we hit every single price point on the way through, from those entry-level wines all the way through to premium wines. So as a business, we have a really strong focus on ensuring that we're always building that. But it also gives us a lot of flexibility within our business, where we can push wines down through the portfolio as well. Mm-hmm. So I look at our Medic Shiraz, which is our second tier Shiraz. If we don't feel that the wines are good enough to fill that, then we push it down to, we don't release that in that vintage. Mm-hmm. But we push that wine back down to the next level. Makes that next level so much better. But we have that ability to continue to push those parcels of wine down through our portfolio.
Because of the various tiers
Absolutely.
and also the cask wine program, because you guys were the ones that begun that whole thing.
We did start the cask wine thing, yeah. So. We don't do them today.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Not anymore?
Not anymore, no.
Oh, okay.
And that was part of the evolution.
And just everybody else does.
Yeah, well, we'll leave that up to everyone else.
Okay, fair.
And again, part of the evolution of our business was to look at what we were doing and what we wanted to be and what we felt we needed to be as a business to survive for the longer term. Yeah. And again, it comes down to that family sitting down and go, well, what do we want to be?
It's the focus on premium wines, chiefly.
Yeah, we want to become a premium wine business, but we also realise that we need to service those entry-level wines as well.
Yeah.
It's about trying to keep the lights on at the same time and trying to balance out the business as well as to how do you get to a place that you want to get to. You also need to make sure that you maintain that business as well as you keep trying to get there.
Yeah, and circling back, like 30 countries, when you think of, any business, never mind our big wine business, which is global, but 30 countries, to establish those kind of inroads, there must have been a lot of junkets for you to various places. I mean, are there obscure countries? Are you in Romania? Are you in Slovenia and Croatia?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd call it junket, so let's put it down to hard work.
Of course.
And
yes,
a lot of blood, sweat and tears. But we do touch on a lot of countries which some people sort of look at it and go, well, but every country seems to pull its own weight. We're in Israel for a while there, Brazil, Kenya. So there's a few that you sort of look at and go, they're a bit weird and wonderful, but.
Do you visit some of these countries and do these kinds of events? Like today's, the road show is fabulous, and you're one of the only countries that actually comes in locally to do that. Years ago, New Zealand actually they had this World Tiki Wine Tour, which was fabulous and headed up by a wonderful bloke who is a Toronto native, no longer here, and that kind of passed. And it hasn't been brought back, or at least, nothing as significant as that. But,
yeah.
But having Wine Australia here, having, having these moments, and having Mark Davidson helming the industry for us and taking us through some of these seminars is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. The wine industry, as we were saying before, is all about, it's people-based. You have to get into market. You have to make sure that you're getting those wines to people, because ultimately, if you can get people to try the wine, that's generally how they'll then go on to buy it. Unfortunately, due to costs and being so far away from the rest of the world, we can't touch on all of those countries, but it's about trying to make the best of what we can do.
Mm-hmm. What do you want the world to know about Australian wine in general, and what should they know about the Angove family among dozens of other wineries across the country?
I think the world needs to know that Australia hasn't gone away. I think they need to know that our wine styles have changed. We're no longer that country which creates big, heavy red wines.
It's so clear to me, being an industry professional. I mean, yeah. I'm a proponent of this new world of what is being offered from Australian wine and wineries. Some of the wines in my glass already, again, with the seminar and the walk-around tasting this afternoon here at Chambar, just linear and gorgeous, some of the best expressions of some of those varietals. Loving the Italian varietals coming to the fore, especially Fiano, and then, of course, some of the Portuguese varietals, Touriga Nacional and Tempranillo. Touriga Nacional Tempranillo blend, which was delicious, and these things we do not, obviously, as a sort of greater wine consumer, would probably not be on their radar or have any idea that Australia is producing these wines not just with these varietals instead of Shiraz or Chardonnay, but doing it in such a way that is so impressive to the wine world, and garnering all kinds of awards. Yeah, as well.
And I think it's come down that we learned a long time ago when we were the best. We were flying. Australian wine was flying. We could do nothing wrong. But
you could kind of sit back and
yeah. And did we fall asleep at the wheel with the consumer going in one? It decided to go in a different direction to where we were going. I'm not quite sure, but I would say now I think we've got a really good understanding of what we feel the consumer is looking for in a wine style. And some of the things that we're doing in Australia are just really pushing the boundaries, and it's quite exciting to watch. But that's what makes the Australian wine industry so much fun as well. It's just that continuing ability to push the envelope and see what's going to come next. It's great for the consumer.
It is certainly great for the consumer, and notably, especially with Angove Family, for that kind of legacy and history. To me, it's just like you're already latching on to something that has a pedigree, that has a precedent for understanding viticulture, understanding what works, understanding the terroirs, and even today, like you say, and from what is become so abundantly apparent when I talk with Mark Davidson, that still new experiments and new understandings and a renewed commitment and excitement about what is still achievable and still yet to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from an Angove family business perspective, we need to make sure that when we're continuing to try and understand what the market wants and what that consumer is looking for. We need to make sure that our wine styles meet what the consumer's needs and wants are, from a packaging point of view all the way through to the wine style as well. We need to make sure that our wines are the best possible quality that we can get on the table, but also make sure that they look at that bottle and go, yeah, I'm willing to put my money into that.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to circle back just briefly because this is where we got cut off. Circling back to Angove Vintage Tasting Assessment Panel, because for me, blending is such a special process of winemaking, and I've recently, read things, and of course, because I'm such a wine nerd, I watch vlogs and blogs and all these things, and this, I'm reading a book currently by Georges Bertrand's, progeny, and it's. He talks about multi-dimensional wine. That's the book, a recent book, and it's almost like it's esoteric. It's philosophical in such a way. You could almost describe it more as heady, but kind of taking a step back, refracting from all of what you have done and what has come before in the vineyards across all of Angove sites, for instance, and sitting there yourself as a blender, sitting there with your team of winemakers, with Tony, and being very present with what the current vintage is and what the grapes have managed to achieve in the current vintage, and then putting these things together in such a way with such precision and methodology to release that incredible blend that is going to become this next vintage.
Yeah, well, it'd be fair to say that a lot of the decisions are very much driven by Tony and his team. I'm very much a third wheel in the process. But
a fun third wheel.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, don't get me wrong.
So
yeah.
I'm sure if that's how you characterize your involvement, when Tony's just about ready to say, put his stamp and say this is going to be the one.
Yep.
And we've worked so hard up until this point this year. What do you think? What do you think, Mark? Are we good to go?
Well, and the beauty of it is, I suppose I look at it from my market perspective. And it gives me the ability to, because each market has a different taste taste profile.
Yeah.
So it gives me the ability to work out whether I feel if it'll work in that market or not. Whether we need to play around, whether to make it a little bit more oaky or a little bit more residual sugar. But it's those little nuances which just sort of tweak it in the direction which we need to move it into different markets.
Yeah, and that's always the interesting thing. You've got these levers at so many areas in the winery after 27 years yourself, being so intimately involved,
yeah.
and you understand just how powerful and arguably transformative that can be when all of the ducks you get in the row correctly and all of the things conspire in your favor in that year, whether it's climate or the weather or what happened in the vineyard, and create something remarkably lovely in the glass and to share with wine lovers the world over.
Absolutely. And there's also another factor in all of this as well. It's that very linear management profile, which gives a lot of the people within our business the ability to look at different aspects of our business, which we may not be able to in a larger business. Mm-hmm. There's a great deal of flexibility in the ability to try different things and look at different things, and mm-hmm. and push our own personal boundaries as well. Mm-hmm. Which working in a family business, in a smaller family business, still very large family business, but a lot of environments don't give you that ability to grow and push where you want to get to as well.
That's a lovely place to hang your hat, I think.
Oh my, very lucky, very lucky.
So, what's next on the list? Are you, this is the road show, are you onward to Boston, Nashville, or something else? Something else,
yeah. No, this trip's 100% Canada focused.
Okay.
Yes. We...
not just BC? But
not just BC, so yeah. I'll go on to Calgary, Halifax, St. John's, Toronto.
Great. Have you been to across Canada before?
Yeah, so I try to get out here once a year. We see Canada as a really important part of our business.
Why is that?
I feel that there's a lot of opportunities in this country for Australian wine. I feel that Canadians still have this love for Australian wine. Mm-hmm. So I think if we can continue to push where we are within this market, there's some really good rewards that we can take away from it. It's about trying to focus on those markets, which I think we can get some good rewards from, and I feel Canada's one of them.
I think it's nascent for sure, and even though I feel like in our lovely little van city here, I'm in those circles, so yeah. The palates are ever evolving and changing and becoming more sophisticated, and there is certainly a huge opportunity and room for growth. I see that with the millennial generation. I got several friends who are bartenders and so on, and they're always curious when I come home with a bottle or I mention something or I make a post about some wine that they've hitherto never heard of or seen, and then there's a new story to tell.
Absolutely.
And that's again goes way beyond the Shiraz bomb of the 1990s.
Yeah, and
right?
You look where we are now. Yeah. You look at in that room today, the amount of people that were, and there was a really good feeling amongst a group of people who just wanted to look at what was different, what could they try. You don't get an opportunity very often to walk around a room and try 50, 60 different wines. And each one of them, I think there would have been 7 or 8 different Fianos, different regions, different winemaking processes, but it's not often you get an opportunity to taste through eight Australian Fiano wines, and
all in one,
in one sitting,
one sitting in one room. Yeah, really enjoyed so many of those wines, and I'm particularly happy to have Angove Family Wines here, of which I'm quite familiar with now for the last while, and to see what's to come.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a wonderful business to work in. We're very lucky people, but who knows what the Angove story has to hold. 140 years behind us. The family's very much driven to continue to push the evolution and the change. So fun times.
Are you at all? I said I wasn't going to talk about the distillery, but do you have any involvement at all with St. Agnes? Or
so the distillery is on the Renmark side as well.
Yes.
So we had our 100th year of St. Agnes brandy last year.
Okay.
So we've been making brandy for 100 years, Australia's #1 brandy. And we go from VSOP all the way through till we released a 50-year-old brandy last year. and I look at that and I go 50 years of putting a spirit down to be released. I go 50 years back. You know, the foresight to go, we're going to hold that for 50 years.
When you were a wee young lad, and when I was a wee young lad, somebody decided, you know what, let's put this in a barrel, and we're just going to put a little label on it and forget about it for 5 decades.
Yeah.
I know that is remarkable to have that kind of foresight.
Yeah.
And to leave it alone. Yeah.
And it's a very big part of our business, and one which, you know, it's the family loves as much as the wine. It's
Cool.
We are a wine and spirit business. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
You know, we released a gin, and now we're doing a whiskey as well. So, so it's just that continual evolution piece. Change. You've got to change.
Got to change or perish.
Yeah.
And I would expect, and my wish for Angove family and for yourself, Mark, would be, you know, another 140-year continued story, or at least, well, let's see the way the world is these days. Let's have a big 150-year bash. Perhaps.
Well,
a decade from now, revisit what we're talking about today.
Yeah, that's one for the family. I think I'll leave that with them to sort out.
Probably best you.
That's
you,
a bridge
you do.
Bridge for them to cross.
Yeah. Well, God, it's been a great conversation.
No, thank you.
Good to get to know you, Mark, and to have you here in Vancouver, and to learn all of the backstory and history of the Angove Family Winemakers. I wish you all the best on your tour across our great country, if I might say.
That's a wonderful country
these days, and enjoy all those. I said junkets, but enjoy those tours and those tastings. And there's a lot of passionate wine people I know all across the country, and in fact, you know, we have import agencies here in BC that are also active in Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba.
Absolutely.
With loads of great people. So I think you're going to have a whale of a time.
Yeah.
And I would just bookend that with wanting to get down under myself and to traipse through the vineyards of McLaren Vale and see Riverland. At some point, it's on my list. My list is ever longer every year, and I just feel like, you know, there's not enough time, there's not enough wherewithal, but there certainly is a palpable curiosity for myself to actually to get there, and I'm going to do it. I swear.
Mate, the door is always open. You know, Australia is a wonderful country, and we welcome all of our friends from Canada to come down and join us. So, you know, welcome mats out.
Well, cheers to you.
Cheers to you. Thank you.
Thanks today to Annie Dingwall, Market Manager Canada for Wine Australia, Shambar Restaurant, the host venue, The Devil's Elbow, and special thanks to Sarah Hergy from Vintage West Wine and Spirits, facilitator for today's podcast. You've been listening to The Barrel Room, and I'm Wine Guy Ty. If you like this content, remember to heart this episode. It really does help the algorithm, and you can also subscribe to this podcast for the low price of free, so you don't miss another future drop. Fun fact, if you hit the share button and copy link, many more humans can join us here as I raise my glass to you. Find The Barrel Room on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, and nearly anywhere else you get this type of content. As always, I appreciate you tuning in today. If you or someone interesting from the world of wine you know would like to be considered for an interview live in the Barrel Room, please reach out through your app or direct message me on IG at WineGuyTy. Remember, the best wines are those shared with friends. Let's share my next drop together. Cheers, santé, and salut.